can look at it at that angle. The question would be, what was it like to have your mom face that challenge?
Okay. Let me compose this. So, like many people, I wasn't aware of what triple negative breast cancer was until my mother told me that she was diagnosed with it. Originally, it was easier for her just to say she had breast cancer, but she further explained that it was not a common type of cancer, and in fact, it was the most rare type of breast cancer. And she shared with us that it affects African American Hispanic women more aggressively and more often than other races. That is something that's hard to understand because, especially as a child, it was in '08, I may have been 12 or 11. It's hard for me, or it was hard for me to grasp that. So my mother explained to me what that meant to be triple negative.
My name is Rasan Woodford, and I'm Daryl Sublet's son. One of the things that I still remember to this day was the night that she called my sister Nyla and I, my mother, into her room to let us know how her treatments were progressing, but more specifically how her remission period was coming to an end. We kind of, well, I feel like we both were sort of aware that something was up, but it wasn't until that we were sitting like all together on her bed and she told us that the cancer had come back and that it was a rare and aggressive form of cancer called triple negative breast cancer, that we knew that there was going to be a question mark over the rest of our future. Because this conversation, this initial conversation took place, I want to say in June, like it was the middle of summer before things started winding down and before we had to get back into the rhythm of the school year. But we didn't know how much longer her treatments would last. We didn't know how much longer we were going to be living in the same house. We didn't know how it would be after she died. Because as time went on over the course of that next month, we became more and more aware of the fact that this would be our period to say goodbye. But we kind of, all three of us, my sister and my mother and I, all kind of pushed that like to the side since we had work to do for the time being. And that was really kind of a part of what made witnessing her handle this situation gave me strength, because she approached it with like calm, like grace, and honestly I would say as long as you're keeping your attention on the person, as long as I kept my attention on what my mom had in mind for me every day, what she had planned for me in the future, and what she would expect from me years from now, I found it easier to handle every day.
My mother was also someone who was all about education. That goes for in the classroom as well as just the general public. Once she was made aware of her breast cancer, she educated us quickly on it, and then she also began to spread the word with people around her with what she was dealing with, not to open a vulnerability or to I don't know, to make it more personal, but she just wanted people to learn from her experience. She wanted people to know what it was that she was going through, and she wanted to make sure that no one else was blindsided, like maybe she felt like she was. And so that's something that she did throughout, you know, the later years of her life, and it's something that's carried on today with this run, and as well with the Team Inspired crew, who are actively making programs and opportunities to educate people on triple negative breast cancer. It's something that we need to be made aware of, and we need to be preparing to help take steps to prevent the cancer from coming. And also, if it does come, that we need to be aware of it before it hits us, so we're not learning, the day after our diagnosis what it is. We need to be prepared to take on the challenges that life throw at us, no matter what they are. And I think that preparation through knowledge was her best way to do it.
Hi, my name is Consuelo Ross, and I am the founder and president of Surviving the Odds. We are an organization that focuses on breast cancer awareness in women of color, primarily the breast cancer type of triple-negative breast cancer. So what is triple-negative breast cancer? Breast cancer can have 3 different components. It can be estrogen-driven, it can be progesterone-driven, or it can be driven by a gene. If you have none of those factors in a tumor, it's called triple-negative. That is a harder diagnosis to treat. It is almost impossible to treat, and that is more the reason why you need to focus on early detection. Triple-negative breast cancer is the most critical subtype for women of color. That's African American, that's Latin women, and that's young women of any ethnic group. In 2013, I met Team Inspired, which was one of the most rewarding partnerships that I made in Kansas City, just in terms of increasing the awareness of triple-negative breast cancer. It is one of those breast cancers that's not widely talked about, but we need more education about it. The fact that we don't have enough statistical data to prove that the CDC should report this as something that's more related to African American women. I think that they focus their research on other areas where they do. You have more data for Caucasians, more data for, all these other ethnic groups. We just don't go, so that they start collecting data on us. Because if you I've talked to people about how come the CDC doesn't make regulations for African American women to where we do qualify to get our mammograms as early as age 30 or 35, since we tend to have our diagnoses at an earlier stage. Not enough data to support it. But yet, when these women die and you find out what they died of, that's when, they died of breast cancer, or they were late stage at the age of 30 or 20 or whatever. You find that after the fact, but we're not collecting data to justify research. That's why we encourage women to go get their screenings, and that's the only way. And then not only that, because you can collect all this data, but I think that a lot of our women have to be open to things like clinical trials. I was a clinical trial patient, and the reason why I agreed to do clinical trials is because my mother died of triple-negative breast cancer. I was a late stage at a very young age, and they gave me the best of medication for free, literally. I mean, it would have been covered under my insurance, but they gave me the best so that they can research the results of what they were administering to me. And if they had good response, then that would be something that would be marketable for a woman of my ethnic background and my age who was diagnosed with the stage and type of cancer that I was. So we have to be open to that, but a lot of times we're discouraged from clinical trials. And we get bad reports, and you're not being a guinea pig for anything. You are helping research. You are helping us as black women or any other ethnic group to find cures and ways to help us. But that goes back to how do we divert funds to doing this research is a lot of money. How do we divert funds to this research when we don't have enough data to support why we are diverting funds? That goes back to educating our women to the importance of early screenings, early detection, annual screenings, and knowing your family history. That is so huge, because even though I knew my grandfather had cancer, died of cancer, my mother had cancer, my father had cancer, and even though I knew that, was I being proactive? I was reactive. So I think when we talk about our family trees, and even not even just cancer, but the little things, heart disease, diabetes, all those things. Everyone knows when Big Mama has sugar. One of the biggest educational nuggets, if you will, that we don't talk about enough is preventative. There are so many things that we can do in terms of a preventative action. You know, your exercise, your healthy weight, you know, what you consume, whether it's alcohol, smoking, all of those things, and just knowing your family history, those are all excellent preventative ways. And then there's things that have published about, you know, what you can do as a white woman, as a black woman, as a woman of historical disparities with health, all of those things. Know your history. We just really need to know that. Yeah, my physician suggested that my daughter, pardon me, he made this suggestion when I was diagnosed, that she have her breast removed. Yeah. And at that age, she was 16, and I was like, oh, we're not even going to discuss that. You crazy? But now, at the age of 24, we are seriously having that conversation. She's 2 generations predisposed, so she's at a higher risk. And because of the way, you know, generational genetics skip, if she were to get breast cancer, even though I didn't have triple negative could have come onto her. Get your annual screenings. The American Cancer Society recommends that you start doing self-examinations at the age of 20. And if you don't feel comfortable with your own self-examinations, go to your physician and request to have a clinical breast exam. That's where you'll have your first finding, if there ever is a finding, and that's when you can start taking action. And sometimes it's not necessarily a tumor, it can be some kind of mass, like a cyst. That's the educational piece that we really need to talk to our children about. And once you get that educational piece, you are going to be proactive. If it's not for you, you'll do it for your children, your grandchildren, and beyond. And if you don't have that mindset, get that mindset, because it's just that critical.
I'm Lori Downing. I am a member of Team Inspired, and I'm here today to talk to you a little bit about who Team Inspired is, how we came together. We are born out of Centennial United Methodist Church. We had a really good friend named Daryl Sublett, who unfortunately was diagnosed with breast cancer. She went through her treatments, which was a generalized radiation. Well, I don't even know if it was generalized. I'm not quite sure what they targeted with her, but she went through radiation treatments, and she went into a remission for approximately 18 months, and then the cancer did come back. And it was at a late stage, it was very aggressive, and that's when they diagnosed it as triple-negative breast cancer. So she had a late-stage diagnosis, which cost her life. We at Centennial watched her come to church every Sunday. She was an usher. You could tell that her health was failing, she was losing weight, she was struggling. She was struggling, but she had a very, very strong faith in God. She had a strong family. She has two beautiful children, Nyla and Rasan, who she always put first. She put God first, but she put her children next. Daryl was trying to educate people about triple negative. It was kind of later on in her time, and she got some of the education piece out, but we felt like we could pick up where she left off. So with that, Team Inspired decided that we were going to take up the cross and carry on the awareness that Daryl started with triple negative breast cancer and educating the community about what it is, who it affects, and also to raise funds in order to raise money for research and also money to help those in the community that are either needing mammogram services or are faced with a diagnosis of breast cancer and don't have many options or don't think they have any options. There are quite a few resources in the city that are standing ready to help those who are in need. There are groups out here in the city that are working hard to raise awareness, to help those who are in need, who are underserved, who just don't know that the services are there for them. If you're interested in learning more about Team Inspired, please visit us at our website at www.inspiredkc.com, or you can visit us on our Facebook page at Inspired by Daryl Sublett 5K.